Mackenzie Johnston with Cattle News Central, bringing you your June 10th cattle industry headlines, brought to you by AgRisk Advisors. They manage your risk so you can manage your operation. With the weather being unstable, there is no better time to look into coverage for your feed crops. The annual forage deadline is right around the corner. With their state-of-the-art technology and superb customer service, you can be confident that your policy is in good hands. AgRisk Advisors, risks averted, legacies preserved. Drovers has reported that on Wednesday, grocery retailer Giant Eagle filed an antitrust complaint against the Big Four beef packers, along with several subsidiaries in Chicago's U.S. District Court. Giant Eagle operates about 470 stores in western Pennsylvania, Ohio, northern West Virginia, Maryland, and Indiana. The grocery store chain is privately owned with more than $9.7 billion in annual sales. Giant Eagle is alleging the Big Four packers exploited their market power by conspiring to limit the supply of beef to purchasers beginning as early as January 2015 and continuing through the end of 2021. Such actions, of course, resulted in higher prices paid for beef by the retailer. The lawsuit contends the packers colluded to cut production and artificially constrain the supply of boxed and case-ready beef, entering the supply chain to artificially inflate beef prices. Same old story, just a different day. Just another lawsuit being brought against the packers. Nothing to see here. The lawsuit states that either the antitrust laws in place to avoid situations like this aren't being enforced, or they aren't capable of addressing the apparent oligopoly that obviously exists. Furthermore, the suit alleges by controlling supply, the Big Four packers were able to increase their profit margins and force retailers like Giant Eagle to pay inflated costs just to keep beef on their shelves. Drovers has also reported, according to USDA data compiled by the U.S. Meat Export Federation, April U.S. beef exports topped $1 billion for the third month this year. In April, beef exports totaled 124,408 metric tons, up 3% from last year, and the fifth largest on record. Additionally, export value soared 33% to $1.05 billion, the second highest export value on record. The record was actually set just a few months ago, back in March, and that was $1.07 billion. Beef exports were highlighted by record exports to Taiwan and the Philippines and increases to Japan, China, Hong Kong, Indonesia, the Middle East, and the Caribbean. Thus far in 2022, South Korea is the leading value destination for U.S. beef, with export value already topping $1 billion. That is an increase of almost 50% compared to 2021. With that being said, these positive April numbers did not capture the full impact of recent lockdowns in China. Furthermore, U.S. red meat exports will undoubtedly be facing some headwinds in coming months due to inflation cutting into consumers' discretionary income and the rising strength of the U.S. dollar versus some key trading partner currencies. The Financial Review has reported that on Wednesday, New Zealand released a draft plan to put a price on agricultural emissions in hopes to tackle one of the country's largest sources of greenhouse gases, burping cows and sheep. If this proposal becomes reality, it would make New Zealand the first country to charge farmers for emissions from their livestock. New Zealand has about 5 million people living there. They have about 10 million head of cattle and 26 million head of sheep. The proposal includes incentives for farmers who reduce emissions through feed additives, while on-farm forestry can be used to offset emissions. Revenue from the proposal would be invested in research, development, and advisory services for farmers. A final decision on the proposal is expected in December. Reuters has reported sheep herders in the western part of the United States have come together to sue their employers, alleging them of operating an illegal cartel that artificially suppresses their wages. The suit, which was filed in Nevada, alleges that ranches coordinate through the Western Range Association, also known as WRA, a ranching trade group, to suppress sheep herder wages and avoid competing for labor. According to the complaint, herders apply for jobs through the WRA, which then assigns them to ranches, leaving no room for the herders to negotiate their pay or shop around among ranches. The suit claims the arrangement violates the Sherman Act, which we all know is a 130-year-old antitrust law that prohibits wage fixing agreements among employers. Back in 2017, a similar suit was dismissed by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit because the court said the herders had not sufficiently proven collusion among ranches. However, several antitrust experts have argued the case was wrongly decided. And finally, the Des Moines Register has reported that Deere & Company announced last week that the company will be moving its tractor cab production from its Waterloo plant to Mexico due to a tight labor market and the need to make way for new products at the Northeast Iowa plant. The Waterloo plant employs about 1,500 people, including 1,100 production workers. The number of workers affected by the move will depend on production volumes and employee attrition over the next 2 years, as well as new product program needs. Without attrition, approximately 250 workers could lose their jobs. A year ago, Deere said it would hire dozens of workers at their Iowa plants if the company was able to actually find the workers, given the increased demand for farm and construction equipment. According to Peter Orzim, an Iowa State University labor economist, the percentage of Iowans willing to work has failed to recover at the same rate as our nation since the pandemic hit. That is all I have for you guys this morning. I hope you all had a great week. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next week.